Hey guys, it's Chris, and this is going to be my Westworld Episode 3, The Stray review. And I gotta say right offhand, pretty damn good episode. We're getting a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole. They did give us a few answers, which of course led to a lot more questions. So we open up with Bernard having another conversation with Dolores, another secret conversation, and this time he hands her a book, Alice in Wonderland. How appropriate. So apparently he's been giving her books before because he mentions that he used to read those to his son, and his son is apparently named Charlie, and apparently he did die. He had a flashback later on in the show where we saw him in the hospital. He had a talk with his wife or his ex-wife, I'm not sure which, but there definitely is something going on with Bernard with these secret conversations, and I'm starting to question Bernard's humanity anyway. I mean, he could be a damn android that thinks he's a human, and given this backstory like we saw Teddy get this backstory, so I'm really starting to question what Bernard actually is. And that's kind of the cool thing about this show. We're going to start wondering a lot about who actually is human. This could be a whole damn crew of people running the place that are actually hosts who think they're human and given human backstories, etc., like his son dying, for example. So, still have a lot of questions about Bernard. So either A, he's behind all this, but he also seems like a pretty damn good guy, so I don't see what his motivations would be other than trying to get his son back in some way as far as artificial intelligence, or he's just really fascinated by how they're adapting and he's actually helping Dolores along. We see Dolores and others continue to have flashbacks. Maeve as well. She remembers, being back in the facility when she woke up from sleep mode in the operation room. We saw Dolores find the gun wrapped up in her drawer, and then she had a flashback to the man in black, and then the gun was gone, so that was a bit confusing. And then we see good old William, our white hat guest who came in last week, and he actually decides, you know what, I'm going to go on an adventure after he saves Clementine. But what's really cool here is he actually got shot. This is one of the questions I had about how this works. If you get into a gun battle with some hosts, because that's part of the adventure, can you get shot at? And apparently you can. Apparently they do shoot projectiles because he had a little bruise there and got knocked down. So apparently it's like an airsoft gun, but this is a lot different on how the man in black gets shot, because when he gets shot, the bullets or projectiles seem to just ricochet off of him, not leaving a single trace, where William had a nice little bruise there where he got shot in the chest. So that tells you right off the bat that the gun that Dolores found last week, that she was apparently guided to find, is in fact probably a real firearm with real lead in it. And then we discover through Ford and Bernard's conversation about the big undertone plot going on about who these hosts are having a conversation with. So apparently Dr. Ford used to have a partner named Walter. Walter was apparently a partner of his that worked with him on the park 3 years before it opened. And basically Dr. Ford tells Bernard that he's the one who had the grand illusion about them becoming self-aware. So apparently these hosts are now accessing old programming as far as their memories go. So at least according to Dr. Ford, it looks like Walter's old programming seems to be coming back to haunt them. It's actually taken effect after 30 years. I also think that Dr. Ford perhaps knows that Bernard is having these secret conversations with Dolores, because during this conversation he seemed awfully suspicious about Bernard and kind of reminded him they're not real, and then reminded him of his own son's death, as if Bernard reminded Dr. Ford of his old partner. So I wonder if Dr. Ford in fact does know what Bernard's up to. We start to see a change in the storyline. As Dr. Ford introduced this new storyline, he gives Teddy a new backstory, a new memory about Wyatt, some evil asshole he's after as far as being a bounty hunter. And based off of that storyline and the talks with Bernard, now we're seeing Teddy and Dolores, at least, their storylines are starting to change quite a bit. They're kind of going off script. Obviously, Teddy has been programmed for this new storyline, but Dolores going off script is kind of affecting him. You're starting to see a big deviation in her daily routine. You can feel real emotion starting to come into it, and she's definitely learning how to lie. And then we had that little scene with Teddy teaching Dolores how to shoot, and she could literally not pull the trigger. So they were giving us a little bit of an answer there as far as how these hosts work. It also came into play when the programmer and security guy went after the rogue host that went off on its own, where these other hosts were caught in a loop because nobody could get up and grab the axe to chop firewood. So apparently it's in Dolores' programming not to actually pull a trigger. Now at the end of the episode, during one of her standard routines, when she gets back at home at night and her parents get killed, she gets taken into the barn by the outlaw, and then she finds a gun in the haystack, and after we already saw her and Teddy trying to shoot where she could not do it, we hear the voice of Walter say shoot him, and apparently this is supposed to be some kind of internal dialogue. They hear this voice in their head basically, so that's Walter's old programming coming back, so she actually overrode her current programming and was able to pull the trigger and kill the outlaw. So we can definitely see where that's going. But I thought it was pretty neat that they kind of explained to us that, certain hosts cannot touch weapons like axes, because we were talking about in the comments some the last couple weeks, even if they are fake guns in this story, any other human that goes in there as far as a guest goes can pick up a knife or an axe or whatever and kill another human, and that's still certainly possible, but there are always questions since this show started about if the guns aren't real, well then there's knives, there's axes, there's rocks, there's all kinds of weapons where something could potentially go wrong and a host could actually hurt a guest. But now we see that they're programmed not to touch certain things, so they're very limited as far as who can touch deadly weapons such as axes, knives, guns, etc. But of course that goes back to the main point of this. They're starting to learn how to override that programming and access older programming, so things are about to go batshit crazy real quick. Now, one of the things I thought was really good about this episode, besides some of those basic questions being answered, was we saw the programmer and the security guy go out to find the stray, the guy that wandered off, and apparently he had been coming back and carving star constellations in these little sculptures he was carving. So that was pretty damn cool to see that you have these androids doing what primitive man would be doing as far as learning their surroundings, learning their environment, and learning from the stars, and carving star constellations into things. It shows that they're actually taking an interest in their environment and learning. This is way beyond their programming. She said it herself that they wasn't programmed to give a damn about star constellations. And of course they find this host stuck down in a little crevice and he is kind of going crazy, so they shut him down in sleep mode. He starts to cut his head off. I'm not sure if that's protocol or what. They put him in sleep mode, but then he actually wakes up on his own and threatens the security guy. He climbs up out of the crevice with his own damn rappelling gear and then goes after the programmer and is about to pick up a rock and kill her. So that was the first attempted violence we've seen in the show as far as a host hurting a human, and it's only going to get worse from here. And again, as I mentioned, we see Bernard talking to his wife or ex-wife about his son, but it almost paralleled the whole Teddy thing. Teddy being giving a new backstory and him remembering the whole Wyatt storyline that never really existed. And then we hear about Bernard's backstory as far as his son, and it makes me wonder, is he human? There were a lot of good lines in this one as well. There were a few references to religion, I think based off the new storyline. You know, devils can't be killed as far as the new storyline Teddy's involved with. We saw Bernard tell his wife or ex-wife, the pain I have is all I have left of him, being his son Charlie. Dolores tells Bernard, when I discover who I am, I'll be free. So this tells you that she's on the path to self-discovery. Maeve is also getting there, starting to have flashbacks. Teddy's starting to change a little bit, so it's starting to affect everybody. And we're led to believe, at least in this episode, according to Dr. Ford, that it's all based on his old partner, which we don't know if he was real or not either, as far as this Arnold character that's based off his programming that's coming back to haunt them. But Dolores, I would say, is making the most strides because she actually learned to defend herself in this one, and it came from the whispers of Arnold, who apparently might have been murdered or perhaps committed suicide, because Dr. Ford said that, you know, they said it was an accident, portrayed it as an accident, but I know he was very, very careful. So something happened to this Arnold character if he was real at all. And then, of course, at the very end, Dolores had defended herself against the bandit, shot him, and then left her house and ran off. And then she finds herself in William's arms and collapses. So she ran away from an actual storyline, and now she is kind of out in the middle of nowhere with William and his friend, because after William got into the tussle in town, he's really starting to get a taste for what Westworld is and now wants to explore and do some things. So Dolores, I think, is going to be connected with William and kind of a real love type of thing as far as a real emotion of hers this time, as opposed to a scripted storyline with Teddy. Overall, I would say this was a great episode. It gave us a lot of good answers as far as some of the basic things we had questioned since day one, but of course those answers also spawned a lot more questions. We're starting to get deeper into the rabbit hole. We saw a few damn references to religion as far as, you know, God and that type of thing, and I think that has to do with the new storyline, something that Dr. Ford's trying to introduce. So it's still hard to say what he's up to. He keeps reiterating the fact that these people aren't real. You know, we had the scene where the guy had covered that one guy up, as I said a long time ago. Why do they have to talk to him butt-ass naked all the time when they're doing diagnostics? I think it's to dehumanize them a little bit. And Dr. Ford seems to be hammering home, repeating to Bernard, you know, remember, they are not real, you know, and seems to be hammering that home. So I don't think he's necessarily behind the whole evolution of these androids. He's blaming it on an old partner, but we really don't know what he's got going on, what his true motive is. We really don't know Bernard's motives right now, anybody's for that matter. So that's what's going to be cool about this show, trying to figure out who wants what their goals are, what their end games are, and if some of these people are actually human in the first place. Another thing I'll mention really quickly I found odd was in the new storyline that Teddy went on, where he went on with the guest, the girl that was with him, and went on to find this Wyatt guy in his clan who actually thinks he's a god of some sort or hears the voice of God or whatever. Again, going back to the whole religion thing being introduced. This clan came up upon them. They looked like the Insane Clown Posse, and the weird thing was that Teddy shot them and they acted like the man in black. They didn't react to the gunshots. He shot all of them in a circle around him. They didn't react at all and commenced to hatching Teddy's ass up with a bunch of axes. Poor damn Teddy. He gets killed in the worst damn ways on this show. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below about episode 3, The Stray. What do you think is going on with Bernard as far as his, conversation with Dolores? What is his goal here? Is he just like a scientist that's very intrigued about what's going on, but why is he keeping this stuff secret and then going upstairs and pretending like he don't know what the hell is going on, when obviously he's having a conversation with Dolores and has straight up told her what she is? And as always, the Man in Black remains a mystery. We didn't get a lot of him in this episode, but at least we did get the whole explanation about the bullet thing as far as humans and hosts. So apparently it is a projectile. It does actually hurt a little bit, but it's non-fatal, and I would assume they probably can't aim at your face because somebody could put an eye out or something. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. As usual, thank you for all the support. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.